So after quite a bit of time spent machining, this was the solution I came up with for machining the pistons. Fortunately, it doesn't work, but this was the idea. I think I know how to make it work now, but I didn't have any aluminium thick enough I could use to make the little spigot part. So I riveted 3 pieces together, which is fine. That makes a nice solid lump. I turned this up from some steel, and the idea was that this fits on there, and then the piston, the machine part on the bottom of the piston, sits nicely in there. So that's a tight fit on there. And I made up this steel pin which takes the place of one of the gudgeon pins. It's kind of a fairly loose fit in there. It's not too loose, but it's easy enough to get it in and out. And the idea is you have a bolt through there, and then that screws into that little threaded hole in the fake gudgeon pin, which holds the piston down onto this. That all actually works fine. The problem is, because I've made it in separate pieces like this, it isn't running true. It did run true when I machined it, but then, of course, since then I've taken it apart and put it back together, and obviously my machining of the surfaces and things just isn't good enough. So I end up with it sort of wobbling. I'll assemble it and show you what I mean. So this is it all assembled and chucked up in the lathe, and if I turn it on, you'll see the problem is it's not running very true. You see there's a little bit of wobble in there. That may not actually matter, but I want to get it as good as I can. So what I'm going to do, I think, is, because this piece is steel, it's actually hardened steel or high tensile steel, and this bit's aluminium. I can't join the two of those together. So I'm going to remake this piece out of steel, and I'm going to make it oversized. I'm going to TIG weld this piece onto the back of it, hopefully without distorting it too much, and then I can machine that whole thing as a single piece to make this sort of spigot that the piston fits on. And then I can machine it all as one piece, so it'll definitely run true. I'm not going to have problems of taking it apart and putting it back together and it running slightly differently. So that's what I'm going to have to do next. The idea works well though, so that's definitely going to hold the piston. You don't need to do it up that tight. I don't want to distort anything, but it's tight enough to grip it, and then I'd just be able to machine the little step in the top of the crown here. This crossbar piece will work for how I'm going to do the 45. So that will end up with a hole drilled in it so that I can mount that onto there. That, after I've machined it, sitting flat in the milling vise, gives me my 45-degree angle. The only thing I have to do is, when I set it up, I need to make sure that the pin is completely horizontal, but I can do that with an indicator. And put that down on the flat plate, indicate off these to make sure these are at the same height. I could have made it a little bit longer to make that easier, but it should be accurate enough. And then you just machine off the 45s on there, in the middle of course. I went ahead and cut out with the hole saw a piece of 6mm steel plate. I then bolted that to my little shaft thing, and rather messily just MIG welded it together in the end. and then I was able to mount that in the lathe and machine it so it was true. And this one's much better. I think there's about 8 thou if run out there, which that's easily good enough, because all I'm trying to do is machine a step there so that it doesn't hit the head. So we're not talking about precision machining here really, it's just machining clearance. So that steel one works a lot better. Just to be safe, I put a little dimple mark to line up with the 0 point on the chuck so I can always get it in the same location, just to help keep it run true. But that should work pretty well. Like I say, I'm an amateur at all this. I'm an amateur at welding. So I don't really get to practice enough. So things go wrong a lot of the time, and then I have to do things again and learn. But you get to every point when you're doing something like this and you think, I think I've done too much. It's probably time to go in soon before I hurt myself or damage something. That moment for me tonight was when I set my welding helmet on fire. So normally I'm really careful when I'm doing welding. I moved all the rags and things out of the way, got rid of the thinners and all that sort of stuff, so there was nothing flammable around. I just happened to have that one rag still left on the bench, and obviously a spark had got to it, because I finished welding. I took the steel outside just to put it under the tap to cool it down, and when I came back in, it's like, what's that funny crackling noise and weird smell? And then I realized the rag was on fire. So unfortunately, my favorite pair of safety goggles, which I actually got from Weta Workshop, you can just see the logo still on there. I think that was the only piece of PPE that they gave us that worked. Most of it we had to buy ourselves, to be honest. But I do remember my first week there, they handed out these safety goggles, and they've been really, really good. They're Uvex brand. I'm not sure exactly what model, but these are the only ones I've got that wouldn't fog up. So I'm a bit sad about that. And my welding helmet as well. So amazingly, it actually still works. It's just the plastic faceplate that started melting. The LCD and the sensor and everything is still good. So I should be able to pull this apart. I can probably repair the helmet easily enough and get a new piece of a new faceplate there, and it should be fine. One thing I've found though in the past, these faceplates, they don't sell them individually. They keep wanting to sell you packs of 10, which are quite expensive. And I would probably go through one, I don't know, every 5 years or something, assuming I don't set them on fire. But yeah, I'm going to have to replace the plastic. I think the rest of it will clean up, which was kind of lucky. So now I've just had a really good clean up just to make sure there are no embers or anything, no more sparks around. Everything's fine. Like I say, this now runs much more accurately. Accurately enough to machine it. I'm not going to get to the milling tonight. I think it's probably time to go in.